This is episode 6 of Small Town Loud Music, and this is Never Better with That Road.
That song was written in Klamath Falls when I was going through the first divorce, and it's probably pretty easy to tell from the lyrics what it's about, you know? And it's just an old, sad grunge song, you know? And it had a lot of, like, harmonics in it and stuff, and it had that swing beat to it, you know? We didn't do a lot of stuff with swing beats, and I was trying to find a way to make a darker sounding song that still came across melodic with the swing beat, and that's based essentially what came out. Like, it had this processing pedal, that the old school pedals that had like the drum loops on them that are far less sophisticated than they are nowadays, you know. And oftentimes we would just find a different drum loop and try out riffs from there and create riffs off of that. And that's the riff that came out off of that drum loop, and I just kind of went with it from there, and we put your live drums to it later, you know. That's how it went down.
Once again, I remember many times of That Road being practiced. It's such a good song. I think that it really is one of those kind of like lately that I will always remember that sound and always remember that song and find it very, very insightful into kind of how life is. And I think of when those songs were written, we were in our young to mid-teens. It was a very kind of different time than I'm in now, but just like I was able to relate to it then, I can relate to it now. And I'm sure that anybody that heard those songs back in the day can say the same thing, of how they have stood the test of time through being teenagers to now being, you know, full-blown adults in our 30s.
That song comes into my mind all the time. I sing that song constantly in my head, and I can't remember all the lyrics, so it gets really annoying.
That Road, the song for that, don't remember either, but I just listened to it again. I remember hearing it before, and that had a dope tune to it.
Man, you know, what's funny is that these pictures, everybody looks so young, and there was that picture of Never Better. I always thought that those guys looked so much older at the time. Like, man, those guys are so grown up. They're a hard rock band. Now they look like they're just kids.
Not to be like, I don't know, something, but I'm just glad I remember them, because a lot of people from our hometown, they don't even remember any of God, we had so many bands that were playing. I think it was insane how many groups were, and just people in general were out there fucking around at the community centers and going to Roseburg even, and then shit, some of them went to fucking Eugene.
So I asked you about your favorite Morthio memory. What's your favorite Never Better memory?
I mean, probably the Ricketts review thing. Just like, I wasn't really sure who we were as Never Better, you know, but after the Ricketts review thing, it was clear that I was like, okay, what we are is those people that are going to leave you going, what the fuck was that? And I think it might have been kind of cool, you know. That was it. Like, probably that moment, you know.
So yeah, I jumped the gun a little bit on describing favorite memories. Earlier I had said, you know, the very first gig was my favorite memory. For Morthio personally by itself, that was my favorite memory. And then for Never Better and Morthio, it was that outdoor gig in Myrtle Creek at the Half Shell, with all the effects and everything that we had going. You know, that actually, we had a couple of gigs there, and one of my other favorite memories was another one at same place, with Never Better. They always gave great performances. Everybody was really in sync with each other. I always really appreciated that they were a really good band. So, pretty much any time we got together with Never Better, those were really, really good memories for me.
Talk about having the band live with you for a few weeks to prepare for a show.
Solid idea, right? What could go wrong? I mean, there was a divorce song shortly after that, I'm sure, you know. But I mean, would I trade it? No. I mean, we were really young at that time. Imagine a house full of bandmates just jamming for 3 weeks to prepare for these shows, you know. And it wasn't just like, oh, we're going to work on these songs for 3 weeks. A lot of times it'd be like, we're going to write a song within the first week, play it within the second week, and fine tune it the third week for the show, you know. And sometimes it'd be like 3 or 4 different songs. And other times we'd be like, we're going to do these songs, and someone would write a song last second. We'd be like, no, we got to do that. And then we were always writing new stuff and being our own worst enemy as far as preparing for stuff, you know, instead of just sticking to a script and going with it. But that was our style. Like, whatever came out that was fresh and new is what we wanted to do, you know. Like, there's an old saying, like, family is like fish, it expires after 2 days, you know. Anyone that's been in a band knows that it's your dysfunctional family, right? And no matter how well you get along, there's going to be shit you do that irritates the fuck out of everyone else, and they're going to do shit that irritates the fuck out of you. I was the house owner at that time, so obviously when you've got a group full of guys jamming music every single night of the week for 3 weeks, and people are coming over to hear it, it's like a big party that never ends, you know. And obviously it's going to be exhausting by the time that process is all done, but fun as hell. I don't remember any negatives about it. I only remember the positives, you know.
I could say that I don't remember any negatives among the band members.
Yeah. Well, I think it helped with me, you, and Mike and Bart all being family. You know, it was a little harder to. That's the beautiful thing about being like in a weird modern day metal band that was all family, right? Like, it's a little harder to get mad at someone when you're all family, and if you did get mad, it was usually handled like in some passive aggressive lyrics in a song, or it was handled like squashed more immediately, you know. It never brewed on and festered from what I could tell, you know.
Yeah, that was so like we were saying, there was no tension that I really felt between us and the band for sure. But like, I feel like we all came into your house with something screwed up going on in our life. Like, I remember I was in one of my phases where I was being ridiculously lovesick, and I was not doing well with that. That was when Mike was going through the loss of, you know, I think it was his best friend at the time. And Bart was in a super toxic relationship, and you were like brand new married, and, you know, going through married squabbles. And Jesse, I think Jesse was just trying to chill among all that crap, but, you know, he was living there with you at that time. And yeah, I think it made things a little potentially volatile, but I think we were like exactly where we needed to be to get through that. Like, I don't think there's a better place we could have been at that time to get through all the individual crap that we were going through than with each other, playing music, writing songs, and just getting to spend time with each other. I remember just the crazy stuff that you would expect from having a band live in the house. Like, I will just speak for myself and say that I have no class. But I mean, like, just to emphasize the craziness of this, and like the craziness that you went through by even just putting up with that in your house, but also like we were sleeping on couches, sleeping on blankets on the floor. Like, I remember at one point, I think me and Mike traded back and forth, but I was sleeping, I think, on a rolled up carpet in the back room for a mattress. And yeah, like, we were just completely out of our element. Again, like, we had support from the grandparents who like sent money for you and sent some money with me. And no, it was, but it was a lot of fun. And it was, even if there were little squabbles here and there, like, the good times that we had outweighed any of the drama that went on. And like I said, I don't remember there being any drama among bandmates. It was all like outside folks fighting with somebody or other within the band. And it never really took root. Nobody ever let it.
Describe the songwriting processes that were typical in Never Better. Usually it was, in the early days when we were really young, a lot of it was just like show and tell, right? You got a song, show me a song. What do you got? Well, let me show this one, and we would just work it out. I think when we were really young, like me and Chad were the older ones, so a lot of the early stuff where it was a bit more collaborative with him. We'd share some. But it's usually someone with the main idea or the main structure, and then people adding lines or adding hooks and melodies in between all that from there.
I think it's impressive to a lot of people. Like, it seems normal to us that Grandma and Grandpa would just allow us to be that loud in the garage, like,
Yeah.
in the back shop or wherever it was, you know.
Mm.
And I don't think most people's parents, or especially grandparents, are going to be like, "Oh yeah, just go ahead and make all the noise you want."
Absolutely not. Yeah, it was pretty remarkable. How many times could you start a grunge or a punk or a metal band at your grandparents' house, and they're just like, "Staying out of jail? All right, cool."
I think that's actually a lot of what it was too.
Mm.
Hopefully Chad will bring it up in his interview, but he said that Grandma, toward the end, he asked her why. And she kind of said, you know, if you guys felt those sorts of crazy things and that, you know, that kind of music that you were playing, we figured it was better to have you there safe doing that, you know, doing that instead of, you know, putting that out otherwise. Like,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
it could have been 1,000 horrible things that we did to express that.
And it was in other ways, you know. We were there for summers, and that was like super therapeutic for me and Mike anyway. That we thought like Oregon was a magical place, you know. It wasn't really like the zip code, really though. It was just the environment. Is like once a year we were introduced to some place of stability that would allow us to get that shit out.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, good Lord, man. Like, from the early days when we were going back and forth from Klamath Falls and Myrtle Creek to Reno, like, I remember our grandpa would literally tie the drums to the top of the roof all the way to Reno just to get us there so we could jam, you know. You might be sitting on an amplifier or two the whole car ride there for 5 hours. You might have a guitar in your lap as inevitably someone will try to play in a crowded car as we're driving. You might have two cars packing up the back and forth because there wasn't enough room to get everything in one car. And if we were driving in snow, we didn't have snow tires, and somehow we are all still alive here to talk about it, you know. We did whatever we could. I mean, we didn't exactly come from a rich family. None of us really had assets on hand, so most of the equipment we had was stuff that either our grandpa had fixed or bartered from someone at a garage sale to get for way cheaper than it should have been. Bless his heart, man. He did everything for us. But he would even let us play in the garage. Probably if he could still hear, he probably couldn't hear by the time we were done, you know. And he never bitched or complained. He loved every minute of it, letting us do it, which was crazy because I look at my life now and I'm like, I don't know if I can handle it with the heavy metal band playing day in, day out like that. But they never complained, man. And we would rely on friends and family, you know, to haul the equipment one way or another. But yeah, I mean, we just stuffed the cars any which way we could. Most of the time, it take very minimal luggage with us as far as like change of clothes, you know, minimalistic stuff that we had to do just to be able to get through the day, you know.
Yeah, no, Grandpa, he never complained about it, but I think he just got a kick out of making fun of us about it more than anything. You know, some of the tunes he thought were decent, and others he's just like, I wash my hands of the whole thing. But I think it was just interesting to him to be like, that's what music is these days, or, you know, when are you guys gonna play some real country music, or, you know, the people we'd bring around or whatever. I remember him making fun of Brenna's nose ring, and fucking, you know, just, I don't know, Bart had long hair for a while or whatever. I'm sure he had comments about that, but I think he was just more amused and having fun, poking fun at everything. And I mean, like you've said before, I think they just wanted us to have a place to be safe and, you know, do something rather than going out and drinking and doing drugs or whatever.
Mike is the guy who taught me how to play guitar. And I mean, you guys are definitely my biggest influences musically. Maybe not so much the bands per se, but the people that were around. Like if it wasn't for you guys, I probably wouldn't be playing still.
If Never Better recorded a full-length album, what other songs would you have added? I don't know. Dancing Queen from ABBA, maybe?
I think like one of the weird things about Never Better is we were so cool with each other that even if we brought trash to each other, we'd be like, oh, that's a good song, good job, you know. Like we were never gonna tell each other like, yeah, that ain't it, man, that ain't it, we need to scrap that one. I think if I'm being genuinely honest, I think there's probably some songs on that list where I'd be like, no, let's scrap that, or attempt rewriting the whole thing, you know.
Yeah, those are the ones that I could remember that I was like, no, I liked that song.
I know those you mentioned were my songs. Like I remember Brain Dead, and I think Words. I think there was like one or two others in there that were mine that I can't even remember. I don't even know if we have recordings of anymore. But
Truth is the one we thought was going to make us famous when we first started playing.
oh, that was like before we even played a gig and stuff. Yeah, that's definitely one I would scrap. That was definitely hot trash.
Yeah, that's a point that was kind of made several times just off camera when I was talking to people. Is like a lot of those songs. I mean, people were talking to me about songs that I've written and songs that I might want to do in the future, and a lot of those songs from back then, kind of just, I don't know. I kind of feel like they kind of went by the wayside, and for good reason. But there was a lot of songs from back then that were really good and are still really good, and they mean as much to me today as they did back then. Um, and some of it, it's like it's on just such a basic level that it's, it still is going to apply to you all of your life. So the question was, if Never Better had made a full album, what songs do you think would have been on there? But like we said, it's hard to remember some of the names of those songs going back that far.
Personally, I think the song that I wanted to record, and I've tried it a couple times, is Got Lame. I would definitely want Got Lame on there. Bart's Armored God. It's weird thinking with you about what songs to do or not, because you had Morthio stuff, and then I don't know if you ever exclusively wrote Never Better stuff, and if we did, because I think a lot of the times, because you had your side project, that if you wrote something, we'd be like, yeah, use that for Morthio, with Mike, he had a lot of bangers. I think we covered most of the ones, all the ones we talked about in here. I would say it definitely one on a final album there. I'm trying to. Bart had some heavier stuff, and I wish he was here to ask right now the names of them. Bart's song "Never Better," of course. That was a popular one with the crowds. There's probably lots. You would have to compile a list and go through them for me to say for sure. I can only speak on what I remember exactly. Hatred would be on there. I think Hatred was definitely one I would have on there. First Motherfucker, I'd probably want to do it in the old style, if Mike would oblige to that. Please, Mike. Thank you, Mike, in advance. What else? There's a lot, man. There's a lot.
Yeah, we definitely played that one in Dust Devil, and I can't remember if it was terribly much heavier, but I imagine it might have been a little bit.
It's hard to remember because, for the most part, we played them here and there and did a lot of them. Tons of Bart stuff, Armored God. I don't know if we ever got an official recording off of that, I'd have to go through my old stuff. Trying to think. First Motherfucker from Mike. I know later on, so that's another example, of Mike's versions of no, it's not heavy enough, it's too weak. When he wrote that for Never Better, if you ask Mike, he would say that was the weak version of it. And I think he even did it later with one of his other bands, with its full-on heavy potential. Remember hearing it, and I was like, somehow he made that 3 times as heavy as he did with Never Better, But that one had just a low-key, crunchy vibe to it, and it just had really popular lyrics for those times. It was an aggressive song, and I felt like that was another song where if we were in a more heavy metal scene, like we were doing a gig where most of the crowd looked like they wanted some heavy metal, that was an easy song to do to warm them up to the idea, hey, we can do that too. Because there were some places we'd play where we couldn't just come out and do a melodic sounding song, or they'd be like, boo, get fucking to it, you know, or whatever. But if you came out with Mike's songs, they'd be like, okay, we'll allow this, you know.
I would say that works in both directions, though, because sometimes you have to ease people into the heavier shit, too.
Yeah, and then you go to talent shows and stuff like that. That's where, like, we would lean more on, like, mine or your style of music, you know. And Bart's style of music seemed like it could somehow fit in either range, you know. Like, it seemed like Bart's stuff would fly at any location we were going to. He could make it work, you know.
Yeah, and it's been 20 plus years or something like that, but there's some of those songs, like, there was even a couple I think that I even put my 2 cents in on as far as, like, writing and maybe some lyrics or something like that, but I'd like to record those. Like, I'm sure, like, they wouldn't have lent themselves very well to playing them live, but I'm hoping that we can remember some of those. And yeah, I don't know if it's been mentioned yet, but trying to get some new Never Better songs or some old Never Better songs played on new shit. So keep your ears open for that.
I don't know how Reno would have taken Never Better. I think maybe it was too soft for the local scene. Dust Devil, however, kicked the local scene's ass, and that was probably by far my favorite of all the bands, aside from Morthio. Morthio and Dust Devil were definitely my favorite.
Never Better was kind of an interesting happening in the way that a lot of what Never Better did was behind the scenes. We didn't play a whole lot of shows. It was just a lot of writing and a lot of the creative process, and then we snuck in a few shows, and it was kind of funny because it was, you know, word of mouth got to people about who was involved with it or whatever, and it kind of spread, and it got to a point where Never Better was considered to be a Reno band. The funny part being that Never Better never actually performed in Reno. We did get played on the local radio station there, but most of our performances were actually in Myrtle Creek, Roseburg area, and then one performance in Klamath. But it would crack me up because I don't think most people realized that the reason that Never Better was around was because they knew somebody from Myrtle Creek. You know, they had a cousin in Myrtle Creek.
And then when it comes to the intensity of a live show, that they overlook the value of slower melodic songs. I think that that's just people that don't really have an understanding of what it means to have a variation in taste. Like, some people really only like very heavy music and very heavy songs, but, you know, as I said, music tends to be something that is expressed in emotions, and humans have a large variation of emotions that can be expressed through music and the things that they hear and the things that we listen to. And so I think that if there's that actual connection to the music for the people who are listening to it, that even though it's slower and more melodic, it definitely will have a great place in their heart to be able to listen to that and enjoy that, even being in the midst of a lot more heavier songs, or more so what they're used to listening to.
Tell me about the R.U. Bart incident in Myrtle Creek. I have no idea what that was all about. I think I visited you in high school. You were in high school. I don't know if you were in high school or worked for it at this time. And then for some reason, some rando kid was like, "Are you Bart?" I don't know. That was it. Freaked me out.
I was like a junior or senior in high school, and you had come to visit, and I just managed to figure a way out to sneak you in there, basically. And I don't know, we might have got you a pass or something, but I'm pretty sure you were there for a short time. But went to the class of one of my favorite teachers, and I was just talking to her, and some kid turned around and he's just like, "Are you Bart?" And the whole classroom just turned around to look at you. And I remember you were just wide-eyed like, what the fuck? And you're like, no. And then they all turned back around and just accepted that answer. And you're like, first of all, how the fuck do you know who I am? Or more importantly, how do you not know who I am? That when I told you, no, I'm not Bart, you just believed that shit and turned back around. Like, how do you know enough about me to know I exist, but not know enough about me to know that I am that person? I remember that just freaked your shit out, and you were like, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Personally, my experience, no, because I didn't know. I just said that. I didn't even know there was other people. But if I knew there was a bunch of other fuckers in that band that were not from Myrtle Creek, hell yeah. Because we always get caught by surprise when anybody from anywhere shows up and hangs out with us in any way. And that is not at all connected with your question when it comes to bands. I can't speak on that anecdotally because I never knew there were people in the band that were from other places. But if I did know, yeah, I probably would have been like, I went to that fucking show where those dudes from other places were there, and I probably would have tried to hang out with your cousins. And not like in a slutty way, but like because I'm from Myrtle Creek and I need to talk to other people. So yeah, I could say 75 to 8% of it, yes. Myrtle Creek was stunned when other people came and played in a band, especially in the band scene. Because, you know, band scenes are like Exit 108. It's like, you know, Cody Bond, you know, and his friends and, you know, these kids who've been here forever. And then we got you, who people don't really know that well. And you got your fucking cousins coming from places that we don't even know where that state is. Yeah.
So before I wrap up here, I just wanted to shout out a couple folks. Toby and Ben. You're going to be seeing a lot of those guys. And I went down the list just looking at, you know, what I've done and who's been involved. And it's either Ben or Toby or both. Pretty much all the way down that list. Those two guys are probably the most ambitious people I've ever come across in life, in music, and I'm going to go ahead and tell the two of you now, I envy you. I envy the shit out of you, because I do not have it like that. I wish that I had the drive to get shit done that you guys have, and I am proud of all the shit that you guys have done over the years, and I'm glad that you guys are getting the credit you get for that. I really honestly think you both deserve a shitload more credit than what you get. And I mean, there's a lot of behind the scenes shit that you guys do that I think goes underappreciated, and it's a lot of the hard work that people don't realize comes with this shit. I've dabbled in it. I've done some shit to get some shit done, but people want to have the fun writing, they want to have the fun performing, they want to have the fun recording, but as far as the logistics and the money and the organization of artists, that's a whole nother level. The organization of artists, not just regular folks, artists. And I don't call myself an artist. I don't. Let's not speak for people and call them artists, but anybody who, let's put it this way, anybody with a creative mind can often be tough to wrangle. And you guys, a lot of times, like I've seen many times from both of you, where you're doing a lot of thankless work, and so I want to make it a little less thankless and say thank you guys for all your help over the years. It has opened a lot of doors that me and other people who are not so talented with that shit could not have opened without you.
What was the recording process with Tom Gordon like? Super cool. Tom Gordon was a consummate professional. The guy has a pretty impressive resume and really knows what he's doing. As an engineer, is probably one of the best. The experience is very professional. It's kind of a lot of pressure too, because the guy knows so much of what he's doing. I mean, this guy got to fucking hang out with Willie Nelson and Snoop Dogg and shit like that. He has these little peons in his studio trying to do something right. Was a little bit of pressure.
All right, that wraps it up for Never Better. We will be moving on to episode 7, and hopefully you guys have liked this stuff. I mean, feel free to hit the like button. All sorts of people with channels are like, comment, subscribe, and I'm like, just enjoy it and do what the fuck you want. I mean, this is really just for fun, and if you guys like it, let me know. Even if you just send me a message, because after this is done, I'm kind of going to decide whether I want to, keep doing more. I might keep doing more anyway, just because I feel like it, but if there's other songs that you want to hear about, or if you want to hear about, new stuff that's going on, just let me know what kind of stuff you'd like to hear. And once again, thank you to everybody who took the time to do these interviews and talk to me for this project. There's been a lot of interesting stuff that's come up with this, and even just in the conversations that I've had that aren't going on the project, it's been fun to watch you guys' responses, and it's been a lot of fun to just go through the nostalgia and think about that stuff. It was a lot of fun times that happened back then.